I heard the kids screaming in panic. They were coming in my classroom next. I was terrified. Then he walked in, and I felt that cold steel against my head. I felt the warm liquid running into my mouth soon afterwards. Then I woke up. Luckily, it was a nightmare. But what happened at Littleton, Colorado scared me to death as a child, especially since I heard they unalived the black kid first, just because he was black. What was even scarier was I was a nerd before and I had gotten bullied a lot. I identified with Harry Potter quite a bit. I wanted to escape my world so bad, and my home life was just as bad. I just so happened to live with my abusive uncle, and I lived in kind of the same situation as Harry Potter. But after being bullied and tortured at home and at school, and having no one to turn to, my personality changed quite a bit. Systems of abuse perpetuate invalidation, and invalidation perpetuates systems of abuse. That's why I closely identified with Emma Stone's Cruella. It really showed how a villain becomes a villain, what actually pushes them. Obviously, Cruella tried to rise up through the good girl method. She tried to show off her work and rise up by being a good person, but the system isn't meant to reward good people. The system was made by slave owners for slaves, and slaves are supposed to stay slaves. The system is set up to stay that way. From ancient Mesopotamia to me too, systems of power have been subjugating people underneath them in order to maintain their power. And they use invalidation as one of their tools to make it seem like what they're doing is okay. They use slave morality to make you feel like you should just turn the other cheek, that their positions of power were God-given, and so was your position of slavery, of serfdom. But that's not true. And that's why I loved Cruella so much. She stood up for herself. She fought back. And obviously, she went off the rails a little bit. Same, obviously, the story with people who do violence. So there's a way to stand up for yourself, obviously, without being violent. There's a reason bulls grew horns. They had to be able to protect their young and their females. They had to be able to protect themselves from actual predators. It's a dog-eat-dog world, as they say. So one day I was in gym class, and everyone in the class thought it would be a great idea to beat me in the face with basketballs. So I put out the strap. No. But I did stop going to school regularly that day, and I definitely stopped going to gym class. The teachers just laughed, and even when I reported it, they didn't do anything. So there was really nothing I could do to actually protect myself other than not show up or do something violent. Is that the option we're giving people these days? There's no way for them to protect themselves against a corrupt system where they have no one to turn to. But there is a way to prevent yourself from ending up in these abusive circumstances in the first place. And my favorite is attachment theory, but when you are experiencing invalidation from a human being about your feelings, whenever you exhibit a time boundary or a space boundary and the person doesn't respect that, when they don't consent to whatever your boundary is, that makes that person a predator. And if you do something in response to retaliate, and I obviously don't mean violence, if you are being attacked, obviously. But that's the reason bulls had to grow horns. They didn't have a way to protect themselves against tigers. And humans, we didn't grow claws or horns. We got smarter. We're social creatures. We learned to depend on each other to survive. I had to explain being Gothic to a friend who apparently thought it was a choice, that it was just all about wearing all black. That it had nothing to do with the fact that we live in a system that oppresses us, and we are aware of it in a way that we can't unplug our minds from. And I can't express that to other people. That's the thing. You're not able to express these feelings that go against the system. That's what happened to Abraham Lincoln. That's what happened to Charlie Kirk, obviously. Whether you agree with him or not, the idea is if you stand out against the system, you're usually punished for it. It's an abusive system. And we wonder why we have narcissistic people, why narcissism is rampant in this system. The system was built on narcissistic people who exploited people who were weaker than them to build their kingdoms, to build their empires. And now to this day, they refuse any accountability for the things they've done to the people who are less fortunate than them. This is why you have to learn boundaries. If you're in any way able to sniff out the red flags and understand toxic behavior, and please follow my page. I'm dedicating this page to pointing out all these toxic behaviors. But the number one that I want to talk about today is invalidation. As I discussed, I was beat in the face nonstop with basketballs, but when I stopped going to school because of that, I was considered a delinquent all of a sudden, although I had made straight A's. And if you think about it, obviously, violence would have been much worse. But there was no way for me to protect myself other than to physically not be there. And then for the rest of my life, because I got bad grades during my senior year, I wasn't able to go to school right out of high school. And then the insult to injury was, for the rest of my life, being invalidated for that. And always being told that it was my choice, my decisions, my actions that led me to the situation that I lived in. And it had nothing to do with the abusive system. And that was all in my head and being gaslighted about it. And then it's depression, that you don't want to be subjugated or abused by the system, forced to go to bed at 8 p.m. and wake up at 3 a.m. When Jeff Bezos, he doesn't wake up until he's good and ready. The people are waiting for him at his meetings, but he doesn't wake up until he's naturally ready to wake up. He obviously understands that that's how a human is supposed to be, but he forces his people who work under him to work all hours of the night because money. And the people under him, people who are benefit from this system, those are the people who are the most narcissistic, because they're able to use their exploitative ways to actually get ahead in the system, and they're never held accountable for their actions. That's the thing with Me Too and celebrities who are eventually caught and held accountable for what they've done. Is really how many people are still being abused and they're not telling anyone about it, or they've told someone, but no one they trust will believe them, or they don't have anyone they can trust. And there's no system. The system does not trust them. The system is built to protect abusers. So really the only way is to have these hard boundaries which make you look like a villain. You have to be angry when you are exhibiting your boundary at work and they keep pushing you and pushing you. You sometimes have to be mean. Sometimes a friend isn't willing to accept your boundary. They'll call you out of your name. They'll call you narcissistic and selfish for being yourself. But a true friend will always understand and actually have that conversation with you. A healthy work situation will always actually have that discourse with you about your time. They won't just abusively steal your time from you. Same with a partner. A partner will always be open with you about the time and energy they want to take from you. They won't manipulate you into taking it from you. They won't abuse you into taking it from you. They won't gaslight you into believing you're not trying enough. If they need something extra from you, they will clearly, transparently communicate that to you like an adult with words. We all have blind spots. Not everyone who is accidentally manipulative, which I'm about to do a video about, really subscribe. If people sometimes with anxious attachment styles are accidentally manipulative, sometimes just normal people who don't have extreme attachment issues accidentally miscommunicate, and it comes off in a toxic way. That doesn't make that person completely toxic. But even in those situations, being able to express to a person that their behavior harms you in some way is very important to be able to do. And if they're not able to hear that, that makes that interaction toxic. If someone is hurting you and you're not able to tell them that you're hurting you without them getting defensive or angry, that's a toxic scenario. And I urge you to put distance between yourself and that person. Or if it's a job situation, try to find a better job. Or if it's, any situation you're stuck in, if you're in obviously a physically abusive relationship, safety first. Don't do anything that will put you in physical danger. But if you can avoid ending up in a relationship where you're seeing red flags, like a person who can't control their anger and like yells at their parents or at their friends or something, you go there on the first date, you notice there's holes in the wall from where they've gotten angry and punched the wall, or their dog is scared at them every time they raise their voice or something. Try to notice red flags and not ignore red flags, because ignoring red flags is how you end up in long-term situations that you don't want to end up in. And boundaries is how you make sure you don't end up in those situations. And that's an integral part of self-love. It's not just about bubble baths and scented candles, although both are very nice. Journaling and meditation in self is part of self-love, and dressing nice and smelling nice and taking care of yourself. But also taking care of yourself and self-love is self-advocacy, boundaries, taking up for yourself. It's kind of like if you saw one of your friends being bullied, you wouldn't let that slide. But for some reason, we treat other people better than we treat ourselves. We'll let ourselves be bullied. We let our own rights be violated and stand up for someone else. I was at work the other day and my new boss was mispronouncing, she was saying my name completely wrong, but she was mispronouncing one of my coworkers' names. You know, with myself, I'm like, all right, I'm enlightened and all this kind of woo-woo stuff, so I'm not going to get angry about you saying my name wrong. My name's kind of weird anyway and maybe difficult to say, but you're not going to keep calling this woman out of her name, because I can see that she's too meek to stand up for her own boundaries. So let me let you know what her name is, and you're not going to keep calling her out of her name like that. Thank you. And sometimes if you are that person and you see people being picked on around you, stand up for them, say something. If you see someone being abused at your job, call HR. Be that person. I know you may have been taught snitches get stitches, but that's part of slave morality. If someone around you is being abused, you need to say something about it. Anyway, that's all for Psyche Blossom today. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. Tell me about a time you took your power back, and tell me who your favorite villain is below in the comments. Like and subscribe. I'm going to keep saying that. Like and subscribe, because I need subscribers. I need subscribers. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching.